Hey, everybody. Let's see if this works. There's nobody. Do you? I don't see anyone else.
Somebody was on and then they were off. So it'll keep coming on and it keeps coming on. It's like it's just one and then two and then back to one. There you go. You gotta say something.
Yeah, so we're just waiting for people to get settled and get on. If you're joining, just say where you're at. It's nice to see people from where they're coming from. So I'm just going to do a chat on some intuition, mediumship, and healing. I'm going to take some questions and the frequently asked questions. So almost just hang tight if you're on. So if you are logged on, because I have a bunch of people logged on, just maybe say where you're coming from or where you're at. That'd be great. So if you don't know me or you haven't seen me, my name's Cali, and I'm a medium. And I wanted to talk tonight about mediumship specifically and the inner workings of it. I get a lot of questions. I did a group today, and they were really good questions. And some of it is like, how it works, and I always say it's not like a human being standing next to me saying like, say Drew. It's not like that. I think people have this misconception of what mediumship is, and I think it's important that some people can clarify this. You know, I think with I didn't know, like before I did this work, I thought if you're a medium you have all these answers, you know, and it's just not like that. I'm sorry, I got to get situated. I don't know. I know a lot of other mediums, and the mediums that I know, we all have kind of the same take on a lot of stuff. And one of the things that I would say is it's a very natural process. Like I truly believe that everybody has this ability to a certain degree, but the degree varies. So I'm not sure, you know, I've heard this argument like, are mediums born or are they made? Like, do they just train? I can tell you from teaching workshops, I've had people come in and have no experience. And I always get a kick out of it too, because I'll have like a mother will bring in their daughter and say, my daughter's really talented, and I want to do the workshop with her. And throughout the workshop, the mom ends up being amazing. So, you know, does that mean that everybody has the ability to do this for a living? I would say no. I would say that everybody has the ability to connect with their loved ones on the other side. And I get a lot of questions. There's a lot of people that logged on. If you have a question, please post a question, and I'll definitely answer as many as I can. But I always like questions that people will ask me, like, can you connect with your mom? My mom passed. And what I say is yes, just like you can connect with somebody that passed in your life. It's not a conversation where there's a ghost standing next to me and we're just sitting here talking one-on-one. Anyone who tells you that is just not being honest with you. And I think that when mediumship was demystified for me, it gave me, it made me realize that, you know, I wasn't really that special. I really wasn't that special. I mean, for me, it was more about understanding how it worked, and my understanding of spirituality and this mediumistic connection and the intuition continues to evolve. And I think that's important. I didn't read somebody else's book and say, oh, this is exactly how it works. For me, it's a slow process, and it continuously changes. You know, and I also get questions like, you know, how come, today I had a really good question. A woman asked, how come some people can come through and have a physical thing happen? Like, I was doing a reading for someone, and actually the phone number of the deceased person rang on their phone, and they tried to call them back, and they couldn't Hey, everybody. They tried to call them back and it was a fast, busy number. I mean, that's pretty amazing. Hey, Lainey. Hey, Erin. Hey, Sherry. This is my first time on this, so you guys have to bear with me with the technical stuff. There's Lauren. Hi, Amy. Carrie. Allison. And I really just wanted to, I like that term, demystifying mediumship, because I always joke, like, if you knew me like 10 years ago, there's no way I'd be doing this work. And I definitely didn't do anything special in my life to deserve this more than anyone else. For me, it definitely changed my life, but it changed it in a way that was unexpected. I thought that if you're a medium, you just have all these answers, you know everything. Spirit guides are standing next to me, talking to me. It's just not the case. You know, the way that I perceive spiritual beings is through my senses, through inner hearing and inner seeing. When this first started happening for me, I saw them outside of me and I couldn't understand what they were saying. And it took an extraordinary amount of energy for me to see them. And I would literally get nauseous, like I'd be sitting there staring at this smoky version of a person. And it was creepy. And I couldn't understand what they were trying to communicate. And that's really what mediumship is for me. You know, it's not only about the communication. To me, mediumship is the neon sign in the spiritual window. If it gets people looking at, hey, there's more to life than, you know, what we do and, you know, how much money we make and all that kind of stuff, then it's a good thing, you know, and there's so much more to it. I always want to say to people that I don't have all the answers, and I certainly don't have the answers for myself. You know, I have to feel through things also. And I always joke, like, the most spiritual words that I can come up with are, I don't know. Because if I don't know, then the spectrum of possibility is enormous. When I know, it usually narrows the field, you know, and I think that's a big deal. I really think that's a big deal. Just post any questions if you want, or I'm just going to kind of go through the normal stuff. And, you know, I had a woman ask a really cool question today. I never had this asked. She asked me, she was a true animal lover. And I do get animals sometimes. If you've ever seen me, I'll usually get like either their name or what they, you know, like there's a little brown dog with your dad, and they'll go, oh yeah, yeah. So the woman asked me, well, what about wild animals? When they pass, where do they go? I thought that was interesting. I've never been asked that before. So I couldn't come up with a good answer. You know, I really couldn't come up with a good answer. I don't know. I've never channeled a fox that was wild in the woods, you know. But it was a really cool concept, and I was really glad that this person asked that. You know, and when I do private groups, I always leave time in the beginning and at the end for questions. And I find that a lot of people ask me about negative energy or negative entities. And what I always say is, my experience has been that the spirits always come from a place of love. I've never had any, and look, I've had furniture move in my house, I've had lights flicker, I've had handprints you could see in real time on pillows with other people standing next to me, so I'm not just crazy all the time. And, you know, I don't know. To me, I was really afraid in the beginning because of my upbringing. I just didn't know. I just didn't know, you know. I was like 35 or 36 when this really, really came on. So anything that came forward, I would ask, like, are you good or you bad? And it kind of freaked me out for a while. And when I stopped asking and I stopped being afraid, it stopped being scary. That's the best way I can explain it. So, and the less afraid I was, the more clear the connections were. Like, I have no idea what I'm going to get. I went to a house today in Park Ridge, New Jersey, a beautiful home, beautiful family. And I walked in and, you know, like, I never know who's going to come through, how long they're going to stay, what they're going to say. I don't know if the person that you want to hear from is going to come in or not. And I think that's part of this, the humility that comes with being a medium is that I don't know and I can't control that. And every once in a while, someone will give me a name and I'm able to connect with that person, but not all the time. And I think anyone that guarantees you anything in mediumship or psychically, they can't. I mean, they're just not being honest with you. And I feel like for me, because I was so skeptical in the beginning, and even though I was having all these experiences, I make it part of what I do. Part of the fabric that's woven into my mediumship is it needs to be evidence-based. And from that place, I can do anything. As soon as I start wanting to please everybody, I get into trouble. Because I have a lot of people that come in and, I mean, you know, my ego tells me that I want to make everybody happy, you know? And I was in business before this, and it was like, you know, I wanted to close the deal. I wanted to make sure that you were going to walk out and go, wow, that was awesome. I just don't get that. I don't get that satisfaction. I don't get the, I wish I did, but I just don't, you know? And I stay away from certain things, like even doing this live feed. It's been, you know, Allison's been asking me to do this for a while. And I'm finally like, well, now that I moved, okay, I'll do it. But also, you know, I know there's a lot of people that have these kinds of experiences and they don't know who to go to or who to ask. I didn't know either. You know, I went to somebody and they told me some ridiculous shit. I mean, they basically told me that I had a hole in my aura and that, you know, like basically made me afraid. And I had to pay this person in order to get better and to make sure that my energy was where it needed to be. And that was all nonsense. You know, I went to England and I had a gentleman by the name of Colin Bates, who is somewhat of a mentor, just a fantastic man and an excellent medium, and he teaches at Arthur Finley. And I remember telling him this whole story about how there's attachments and these cords, and I got to cut the cords. And because everybody was telling me in the States, Drew, you got to cut the cords and you have to call on Archangel Michael to have a sword come down, and you have to put this crystal on the side of your back and on your head. And I was so lost and I was so misdirected and misguided that when I came there and I told him all of this, he started looking at me. He's like, what the hell are you talking about? And I remember that vividly. And he's like, look, you're on, you're off. It's that easy. Don't make it complicated. You know, and I think we tend to do that. And I think people tend to think that, you know, I always joke, like, I don't have a bat phone, I don't float, I don't have a bat phone to God, I don't float, and I don't have all the answers. And I think for some people that scares them a little bit, but that's okay with me, because I'm not here to please everyone or appease everybody. For me, it's not only a personal spiritual journey, but it's a lot larger of a picture that I need to pay attention to. You know, and for a period of time, I would literally base my identity on how well I did that day. So if for some reason I couldn't read for somebody or it wasn't a good connection, the entire day would be ruined because I would be so disappointed and be like, how come this happens? And I've seen the most incredible mediumship one day from an incredible medium, and then a couple weeks later or a couple months later, I went to see them and they had a really difficult time. So it made it, and I know that sounds crazy, but I felt better. I felt better because it was like, okay, it lets me off the hook. I can't be perfect. And, you know, another mentor of mine talks about, hopefully on my worst day, it's good enough. And if somebody comes in and I can't read for them, I just tell them, like, look, I'm not feeling a connection. I'll give you your money back or you can reschedule. It's up to you. I just know there's a lot of bullshit out there. And I know there's a lot of people that, like, who do you want to hear from? Oh, your mother? Oh, she's here. She's fine. She loves you. She sends you roses. You know, anybody could say that. I could say that right now to anybody and they'll go, okay. You know, and I had a young girl come in. I'll never forget it. She came in. She had a little infant in her arms, so it kind of threw me off. And she started talking about how she went to a psychic in Las Vegas. And this was up in Saratoga when I first moved up about 3 or 4 years ago. And she was telling me that she went to this psychic. Her mom passed away. She went to this psychic, and the psychic told her that her mom didn't cross over because she was stuck in her aura. She was not only stuck in her aura, but she was haunting her because she was pissed off that she didn't listen. I mean, it's just this whole bullshit, batshit story. And this girl was literally like on antidepressants. This had been going on like a year. And I ended up getting, it was weird. I ended up getting her father. Her father came through. Her father passed also. And this girl was in her early 20s. But no matter what, with her mother, like she wouldn't let go of that concept. So what I've learned in doing this work too is if somebody has a belief system, I can't change that. Not because I want to. Like, that person has to be open, they have to be willing, and there has to be something that comes through. There has to be the right time. But this woman spent thousands of dollars on a credit card going to different psychics and healers, telling her that they were going to recalibrate her chakras and they were going to, you know, send her mother into the light. But they don't need our help, in my opinion. You know, and I know a lot of other mediums that believe the same thing. You know, I think that's really arrogant for me to be like, well, you know, I can walk around and send some spirit who passed away, you know, I should send them to the part of heaven they need to be in. Like I don't know. It doesn't work like that for me. Hey everybody, I know more people are logging on. If you can just put where you're from, I'd really appreciate it. It's always nice to see. I see Montgomery, New York. I know some of you from Saratoga. I know Laney, you're in. I don't know. I think you're in Colster or Bergen County. I know you're in Bergen County. You know, and I think with intuition, like the difference between a psychic and a medium, it's simple. Psychic means of or relating to the soul. So psychic is basically for me reading your energy. My energy is reading your energy. How your energy affects me and my energy gives me psychic impressions. We all do that. We all have that. You ever meet someone and right away you know you like them or you don't? You know, or you look at someone and you get a vibe from them. And sometimes we're being judgmental, but sometimes we're picking up stuff that we're not aware of, we're not cognizant of. Mediumship is when a spirit steps into my energy and influences me to hear, see, feel. I'll get thoughts that aren't mine, emotions that aren't mine. And the key is I have to really do the inner work on me in order for me to stay clear so that I can understand what I'm receiving and where it's coming from. And I can't always do it perfectly. Like today, I kept saying something about someone and they were like, you know, they understood it as the living person, but it was coming from the deceased talking about their life. And that's okay with me, you know? And for me, I didn't know that all mediums are psychic and not all psychics are mediums. I didn't even know I was psychic. You know, I don't really like that term either because I had a lot of people come in and they would give me all sorts of crazy questions. And, you know, should I have this baby? Is my husband cheating on me? Will my mother die next week or in the next month because I want to get the estate ready, or I want to sell the house, you know, things like that. And another thing too, I also learned early on, if you're dabbling in this or you have interest in this, yeah, we can practice on people we know and stuff like that. But I always caution with that because I know for me, I want for somebody. Like I was reading for my sister early on because we had a tragedy in my family that directly affected her. And there were some things that were really good the first time it happened. When I went back and tried to do it again, all of a sudden I found that I was off because I wanted for her. I wasn't able to just tune into what I was naturally, organically receiving, which is usually predicated on the need. I went back and I wanted for her, like I wanted to control the outcome. And I learned real quick, I can't read for people that I know or I care about. Not well, you know. And on occasion, like I have a medium friend, if you guys know her, she's an awesome medium, Kim Griffin. She does a lot of these too. Her and I read for each other, and she does a fantastic job no matter how many times somebody comes through. And her mom will come through for me really easy, but her dad doesn't come through that easy for me. It's weird, you know. So I don't know. I wanted to get on this and get used to being online and live, and maybe I'll do some free readings and maybe I'll do other things, you know. But I really wanted to break into this. I mean, I'm here in Mawa, and you know, I'm a little bit busy, but I really like the idea of working from here and having people, you know, be able to log on from the comfort of their own home and be able to have a conversation or be able to, you know, like a reading doesn't matter if you're in person, by phone. You could be in China talking through a speakerphone and the same information will come. It might be annoying because I can't understand what you're saying, or you're not giving me a yes or no. But for the most part, I'll never forget, I had a woman on phone. I think she was from the Midwest. And at the time, I was doing readings for up to 2 or 3 people, but only in person. If it was by phone, I generally did it for 1, maybe 2. And it was just so funny. Right away, I'm like, there's 3 people in the room with you. She's like, yes. And then she put me on speaker, excuse me, and we were able to do a little mini group by phone. I don't like doing that because everybody cuts in over each other on the speaker. But now I have this phone conference thing where you can kind of call in and it separates that. So it's kind of cool. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys joining, and hopefully I can do these more often, you know. And the other things that I would say is when it comes to healing or Reiki or energy work, early on when I would read for people out of my home in Rivervale, as I was reading for people, my hands would get extremely hot. Like almost my left hand would have like a pulse in the center of it. It was really weird. And I ended up, as I was reading for people, I'd start to see energy over the shoulders almost like when you look down a hot highway and you see the heat waves above the pavement, you know, those wavy lines. I would start to see that around people, and sometimes over a period of time, I would see colors with that. And it's not. I used to joke like people don't walk around in a purple bubble, you know. Oh, let me just scroll through here. I haven't been scrolling. Hi, everybody. So I'm going to try to get to some of your questions. All right. Hey, Courtney, Deb Hurst. Let me see here. Wallkill, New York. Welcome. Do random spirits come through and stick with you to reach out to someone? That's a really good question, actually. Hardyston. Hi, Justine. So what I would say is, so I've had people come to me and say, okay, look, I was driving down the road and spirits just jump in my car, have conversations with me. There has to be an intelligence behind it. There has to be. Like, I don't walk around and just like random, you know, Mr. Williams comes over and starts talking to me because he used to live here and he just wanted to say hi. You know, so I would say yes and no. I would say no, it doesn't happen randomly. It happens very purposefully. But I do, what happens to me before I read for somebody, or sometimes a few days before, if I do a group, I'll be aware of somebody's face, or I'll be aware of a man, or I'll be aware of, like today, I was on the way to a group, and I was really aware of this man wearing a uniform, like a police uniform, and he, it was somebody's dad. I was just really aware of that. So I assumed it was a police officer. So that was the first person that came through. When this person came through, it was very strong. So, but were they like riding around with me in the car? No. And I don't think that like when they stick with you, like it's not like I walk in the door and I have 3 people waiting. It has to be real time. So in other words, so early on I thought the same thing, and I would actually, I'm like yellow pad freak, and I would write like all these things that I was getting, and then somebody would come in for a reading and I would assume that this is all for them. So I would start telling them all this stuff, and half of it would make sense and half of it wouldn't. So what I started realizing is that it has to be a level of surrender on the medium's part where I'm just allowing whoever needs to come through to come through. Once that person sits in front of me or I'm around somebody, I just allow whatever happens, happens. I can't prepare and control it. Doesn't mean that the other person isn't trying to come through early. It's like catching a rainstorm with a shot glass. I don't understand. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like I get all these downloads and they don't always, they're not always in order. So in other words, I remember the day before I was doing a reading yesterday. And it was just weird. The information that came through was actually for the next person. So it was at the end of that session. And some of the information that came through, she was like, no. And then the next person, it made sense for. So, you know, I don't know how to answer that other than that, but it's not so random. For me, I would say it's more purposeful. And I hope that helps. You know, it's like one of those things like, hey, Queensberry, Michelle. Hey, Mary Beth, Fort Plain. Hey, Roseanne, Roxy, Mawa. This is fun. Hey, Jim. Jim, I call you Buddha Jim because you're so calm. I saw that picture of you with your hair today. Holy cow. Hey, Laney, you live in Ridgewood. I didn't know that. Guida, I haven't seen you since high school. Hey, Aurora. So Adele, so when you say yes all the time for me, are you saying, I'm assuming that spirits come up to you all the time? So what I would say about that, I get a lot of people that actually come in and they will tell me things like, how come it just happens to me all the time, and how do I shut it off? It's a really good question, and it's a really valid question. I would say I don't avoid doing like concerts or going to see, for me, football. I love football. So if I went to like an NFL game, but it can be really overwhelming on the senses. It can be sensory overload, but like I just get so many people, and it's a little frustrating sometimes. I get a lot of people that come in and say, well, I'm empathic, and so I feel everybody's everything. Naples, that's where you're at, Jen. So one of the things that I would say is when I'm in a good space and I'm centered emotionally, spiritually, energetically, mentally, whatever, it doesn't just happen, usually. On occasion, it does, if there's a real purpose behind it and it can help someone in need. So, I get a lot of people that come in and say, I can't turn this off and I'm overwhelmed. And usually their life is out of balance in some way where they're too open or they want things to happen too much. And I think for me, it's a good thing and a bad thing, because at first it was like that for me too. I remember going to the grocery store. I remember walking around in the grocery store, and I remember hearing broccoli, $2.49. And I was like, what the hell is that? Like, so I went, or it was, I think it was broccoli. So I walked over and I saw broccoli and it said $2.49 right on this this bin. And I was just like, what is this? There was an intelligence. It was like teaching me at the time. It wasn't so I could know all this stuff. It was specifically to show me that this was real and that they can give me whatever information they wanted to give me, not necessarily the information that I wanted to give somebody. And I learned that really early on. So like, I'm going to answer some more questions. I'm just trying to scroll through. How do you do a reading remotely, like through a computer or phone? Okay, I just was talking about this before. So, hey, Doreen, I'm Doreen Elizabeth. I'm going to answer this question. So I don't mean to keep jumping, but I do want to get to everybody's questions if I can, okay? So how do you do a reading remotely? So the energy that comes to me, even though it's through you, it's still coming to me through my senses. So energy is like electricity. It doesn't matter if you're in Nebraska or you're in Ohio. If you plug into an outlet, you're still going to get electricity, right? So the light's still going to go on if you turn the light on. And that's what spirit is like. There was an experiment I remember reading about where there were like a few different people that did a reading on a family in a few different areas, like a few different countries at the same time, and they got different information from the same person at the same time. So, I don't know how that works, but I know it works. I know that the intelligence of spirit supersedes our linear understanding of time. And people talk about, oh, there's no time and that time is moving faster. If there's no time, how does it move faster? I don't understand it. It's like, I was talking about it today, it's like quantum mechanics. Like you can read certain pages and go, holy shit, that is awesome. And then halfway on the next page, you're going, wait, what did I read? Like the concepts are very elusive. And that's what it's like. So the information, and I wouldn't have known this either. So Doreen, I appreciate your question. I wouldn't have known this either. So they did tests too at Arthur Findlay College where they would have everybody come in a room, like 80 people would come in a room. They would sit down. They would leave their name on a seat. They would get up and leave. The mediums would come in after. And now you couldn't see the names. They just left a little note with their names underneath. And the mediums would come in after, and they would do a reading as if the people were there and say, I have a father here or dad of a heart attack, and it's this chair. And they would walk over, and everything added up. So it doesn't have to be in person. How exactly the mechanics of it, I don't know. But I know that sometimes doing a reading by phone or by Skype or this kind of video, it's amazing because you're comfortable, I'm comfortable. The one thing that I know that throws off readings for people is they come in and they're really nervous, or they come in and they have this one person they want to hear from, and everything I say is, nope, that's not them. Nope, that's not them. Are you sure my mom's not there? Nope, that's not them. Are you sure my sister's not there? So when you do it by phone, also it's less distracting for the medium or for the reader, for the psychic. So in the beginning, I would get distracted because as I'm talking to someone, say, you understand that I'm on, their face goes back and your senses go, oh no, I'm getting it wrong. I need to change what I'm getting. So there's benefits to it. There's definitely benefits to it. I hope that answers your question. All I do know is that readings by phone or remotely through a computer, the same information comes through. There's no difference. And I understand psychologically that you want to maybe be in the presence of the medium because you feel more connected to the emotion. But it doesn't change the information. It doesn't change the way that it comes through. So I hope that helps. Yeah, not random. No worries, Adele. I get it. I always see the 444 and 1111. Yeah, those are good numbers. I think 444 means yes, and like 555 means question it or something. I read something a long time ago, but I love numbers. Hey, Deborah. I'm still up there in Saratoga every couple months. I'll be up there in April and I'll be up there in June, but most of what I'm going to do is in person is down here. Tracy Jeffers, how are you? My dad's on here. Holy shit. What do you do when you get information that may not be happy news for the other person? So that's a really good question. So what I always say is I don't really get bad information Like I had a lot of people in the beginning come in and go, is this person going to pass? Is this person not going to pass? Is my mom going to pass away soon? All that kind of stuff. What I will say is I always ask for the information that is of the highest and greatest good for the highest and greatest need. And the reason I took the name psychic, instead of being a psychic medium, I want it to be a spiritual medium, because if you really are a medium, you know that you're a psychic. Because I wanted that to be my primary purpose. For exactly that reason. People come in and, do you see anything bad with me? And look, on occasion, will I get a red flag for somebody about a relationship, about work, or about school, like that, they're overwhelmed, they need to take a break, or, hey, you need to upgrade this or that. I do get that kind of information. Hopefully it comes with a person from the other side. But the predictions to me are really, I feel like I have a responsibility to not go too far with it, because you can disempower somebody. Because if I tell you that you're going to be rich in 5 years, you're going to own your own business and you don't have to worry about it, or you're going to marry somebody that's going to be really wealthy and you're not going to have to worry about anything, you're going to have 5 kids, you'll sit around for the next 5 years eating Cheetos and not do anything, and then you'll be like, Drew, how come how come this didn't happen? So in my opinion, I think we're only supposed to know what we're supposed to know. I don't feel like we're supposed to know everything. That's just my opinion. And that's been my experience. I don't really, I wouldn't want someone to tell me too much about my life, because it'll start making me question what I'm doing. And like I was saying before, I don't know are words that I use often, because that's honest. When I do get something, like what I do get, I will tell you what I do get for people is there's a little girl coming into the family. The next person that's born will be a little girl. I got that today. I'll get that, the person was working with in vitro or whatever, and I would say, I know within the next 3 weeks to 3 months, there's going to be significant change in boys coming, something like that. So for that kind of thing, I don't really get bad news, because I'm not looking for it. And I always say, when I'm doing like intuitive workshops, if someone's sitting there like you have a bad cloud hanging over you, you have a dark cloud hanging over you, or there's something really bad, you have to worry about this and worry about that. To me, that person is making himself really necessary in a way that's not helpful to you. Because how's it going to help you if somebody's like, you're going to get in a car accident? What are you going to do? You're going to drive safer, or you're not going to drive? You're going to hide in your house? So for me, it's really a responsibility thing. And that's why I stick to the mediumship. When something comes organically and naturally, I'll give it. And like I said, if you knew me before I did this work, this was not something that I would do. So for me, it pushes me to keep it really authentic, really earth-based, and sometimes really simple, because for me, less is more sometimes. If I try to give everybody what they want, and I try to answer every question, I might give you something that I want for you instead of what's organically coming for you because you need to hear that. So I hope that helps. Often when I'm around friends, so this is Kayla. Hey, Kayla. When I'm around friends, information for them comes through. How could I deliberately turn it on in a focused session so I'm not giving readings at work in public? It's a really good question. So Kayla, one of the things that I would say is you're probably one of those people that you're a giver, you're a nurturer, and I could probably feel it through this, just like looking at your name. So for me, it's so simple. I'm on, I'm off. Now, I have conversations with people where I'll start talking about something significant like a birthday or a wedding, and they'll be like, it's so weird because, I didn't tell anybody, but I'm actually engaged. Or, something will come up naturally. So in that way, you can deliberately turn it on and off. But the two things that I would say is the number one thing is meditation. If you're not meditating regularly, I always say that you're working about 50% of your intuitive power or your mediumistic power, and your impressions are only coming through at like half speed. Now, over a period of time, does everyone meditate? No. Who does this work? But the majority of people do. They sit in that power. Because in order for me to understand what I'm receiving for you, I need to know where I'm at on a daily basis. I spend almost an hour a day in prayer and meditation, and it's not a religious mantra type of prayer. It's a very simple, straightforward prayer. Please help me get through today, whatever comes my way, with grace and a sense of humor and a positive attitude. I don't pray for outcomes. I don't tell the universe what to do for me. I don't believe in that. I feel like, that we have certain lessons that we're going to have to go through. and we can't really change that. We have to learn how to be really flexible and fluid with life. I don't do it that well all the time, and I'm not claiming to. So Kayla, what I would say is, and also what I do is I tell people, if people know that you're doing this and they come over to you and start asking you questions and you start giving answers, I stopped giving answers. And a lot of people didn't necessarily like it. You know, it made people like, what do you mean? I had a woman that used to call me, be like, hey, it's my birthday. Can you pull my dad through? And this was like my first like 6 months doing it. I was like, okay. I would have paid you to come to me for a reading in the beginning because I just wanted to practice. So I remember this woman calling me, and I knew that her dad passed. So every time I had to get like new information, and it kept putting me on the spot. And when I started saying no to her, I never heard from her again. You know, and I'm okay with that. So I understand that, you know, information can come through you. I would say, you know, the meditation and setting that intention and just saying no. And if you want to do it and it's working for you naturally, that's okay. But generally speaking, when something happens to me in public, like, so I was at the dentist's office and the girl brushed my shoulder, and I remember right away I got December grandma. And I said, your grandma passed? She said, yeah. I said, her name was Martha. She said, yes. And I said, someone just visited her in December. She's like, no, my granddad died and just went to her in December. So I didn't get it perfectly, but I got that. And that's all I said. She starts crying. The dentist comes back and he's like, what the hell happened? You know, so I don't like doing it because it threw her off for like half the day. So again, if it comes to me that organically, I'll do it because it almost comes in a surprising way. But if I'm sitting down knowing that I'm going to pick something up from someone, I'll try to really keep it short. So I hope that helps. Hey Adele, it's just so new as far as me finally doing something about it, so it's making a lot of sense. Okay. So it isn't making a lot of sense. Yeah, if you're new at it, just keep it really simple. You know, and one thing that I would say is I always set an intention that in the beginning I was like, if you want to come to me, or if I'm supposed to get information, when I sit in that power or I meditate from 10 in the morning to 11 in the morning, that's when all the information can come to me. The rest of the day I'm off. I'm out of the office. And if you're adamant about it, it's easy. I'm telling you, it's easy. And all it is discipline. That's all it is. And I promise you, I'm not somebody that's very, very, very disciplined in my life. But when it comes to this, I'm super disciplined. I don't go around doing readings. And also, I could tell somebody something that they may not be ready to hear that I'm aware of. And what you're doing too is by doing it repeatedly, you're saying to the universe or to that spiritual energy, I'm open to this. So I don't do it regularly. So they know if they're going to come to me, it needs to be a really, really good doorway for it to come and a really safe space. So I hope that helps. Hey, Jen. Voorheesville, Central New Jersey. UC 555. Sometimes I get things in a medical sense. Yeah, medical is really interesting. Melanie, I'll come to that question in a sec. So the medical stuff I find is really fascinating. Early on, I would get impressions of, I would know someone had diabetes. I don't know how, because I'm really not a medically educated person when it comes to things like that. But I would be really aware of something. I remember this husband and wife came to me, and I was really aware of something going on in his upper stomach. And I couldn't read. I said, listen, you have to go get this checked out. I don't know what it is. And I didn't want to scare him. That's one thing, the responsibility with the medical stuff. Carolyn Mace, M-Y-S-S. Carolyn Mace. It's pronounced Mace, but it's spelled like Miss, M-Y-S-S. She does a lot of work with that, and she's an amazing person. There's something called the anatomy of spirit, where it goes through everything from chakras to body parts to organs to life lessons. It's really, really interesting. So if you're not reading her stuff, you really should be. There's a couple of medical people, but there's so much liability with it. You know, that's one of those things that I can only help to a certain degree with. But if it's coming to you naturally, go with it. That's what I would say. Can you speak to the concept of passing to the other side? Spirits that are in contact with you, do you get a sense that they are either there or dwelling amongst us? Hope that makes sense. Yes, actually. So the concept of passing to the other side, I always say that I know a lot less than I would like to. The spirits that are in contact with you, do you get a sense that they are either there or dwelling amongst us? So I don't get that they're stuck here. I always get that it's like what I was talking to you before about electricity. I really feel that there's a dimension, like a ripple in the atmosphere that they're part of. So I always use this. It came through in a session one day. I thought it was a really good analogy. We're all swimming in a pool, and at some point in our lives, other people have to get out of the pool, or a whistle blows and they have to get out of the pool. So they do. Now they're still sitting poolside, and they could still see us, but we can't see them because they're above. We're in the pool, so focused. We have like goggles on, swimming around the water. We're so focused on our lives and what's going on, we just are not supposed to see them. So I always feel like they're always hanging out at the pool, and they can only, and if we're in the pool and we're going towards something that maybe we shouldn't be, maybe they can whisper in our ear and nudge us a little bit to the extent that they can. But I don't feel like there's ghosts that are stuck here. I never did. I think originally I wanted that to be, and I was exploring that. And if I listened to what everyone told me in books, I would believe that. But my experience tells me when I pick up something in a room or in a building that's not either not nice or isn't really connected to, I always say that the spirits that come through are connected to people. Like, so my mom is not like hanging out in my living room in Norwood and she's only there. I feel like our spiritual self and our soul is so much more than that, that it's almost like we can't fathom that, but they can be in numerous places at the same time, like electricity. So I don't know how much more to elaborate on or how to. The ones that are in contact with me, it seems like there's a doorway open for them to come through and give me information so that I can help the person that they want to touch base with, to give them closure. Every once in a while, I feel like the person needs to apologize or something like that. But for the most part, I just feel like there's always a purpose when they come and they're not stuck here. I just don't feel that. I hope that helps. I know that when people come through, they're always with their loved ones on the other side, and they're showing me aspects of how they were on the earth because you wouldn't recognize them otherwise. So how much have they changed on the other side? I believe when we shed the skin suit and we go to the other side, we have these epiphanies on what we did and what we didn't do and how good we were and how not good we were, because we have to experience that. And that's that heaven and hell. After that, I really couldn't speak on what happens. I'd be being dishonest. I just know that we move on, and I know that there's, if you want to call it other levels, I know that there's progression, there's soul progression. I know that. And that's why sometimes spirits come back and they need to apologize, or they need to come back and acknowledge that they made life difficult. I get that a lot. Like I always joke, like when I do readings, people will say, your mother-in-law's here, and like, tell her to go away. And I joke about that, but I get that a lot. Like people don't want, or my dad-in-law was really nasty to me. And sometimes they'll come through because they have to, or they want to make an impression on that person that they're trying to change, and they acknowledge that they were difficult. And that's why for the person that you definitely want to hear from doesn't always come through first. I really, really know that because even yesterday, someone came in, she wanted to hear from her mother. There were three people that came through before her mom. And her mom only came in for like a minute at the end. Because she would have never been able to hear from her brother, she wouldn't have wanted to. But the way that he came through, it really made a lot of sense for her, and she was really happy about it. But she wouldn't have been open to it because she wasn't looking for that. So I always leave it up to them, and I think that's really important. Lainey, I hope that helps. It's a huge question, and it's a huge conversation, and I feel like they are home, we're visiting. I always feel like that, and I always get that impression from them, like, we're fine. Don't worry so much about us. Get on with your life. Get on with living, because we're all going to be fine when you get over here. We'll see each other. So they don't feel so disconnected like we do. And then I get people that are like, well, they don't miss me then. Of course they do. But they more or less feel that you miss them, and they would just want you to be okay. And that's usually why people come through. Now, if people don't come through, I've had people say, are they not okay, and things like that. I don't feel that. I don't feel that. I don't know why some people can come through easy and some people don't come through. It's not up to me, and I do know that, in doing this work, sometimes it's a timing thing, or I always ask people before they come in for a reading, like, how many people, have you ever been to a medium before? And sometimes, I get, yeah. And I'll say, when was the last time you went? Someone will be like, 2 months ago. And if they got a really good reading, I'm not going to be able to get that much unless someone else passed. because it's not meant to bring people back to life to have conversations, especially people that lost children, where they'll say, can I come on the birthday? Can I come every 3 months? It's not like I'm not God, and no medium is, so we can't bring them back to have regular conversations. Good mediumship is validation, not conversation. It's giving evidential validation that there is life after life, things that I couldn't possibly know, so that you can walk away going, wow, there's no way that person could have Googled that, and to feel their presence and that emotionality of it is really, really important, but it's not everything. Sometimes people come through and the person that comes through doesn't speak a lot. And after a couple of minutes, I'm like, do you understand that Dad just didn't talk a lot? And they'll go, yeah. Thank God. Because I'll be like, I wasn't getting anything. And they're like, well, he never talked. So sometimes what they don't say is also telling me what's going on. Now, if I could tell you what was going on the other side, I think that I would do everything in my power to pass it on to everybody. What I do know is that they go on, and that they're okay, and that they just don't want us to worry. So does that mean that you can feel the presence of a dad in your living room? Sure. I just also don't believe, though, that because a lot of kids are really sensitive. So I'll have people come through and they'll want to, they'll come in and say, I went, my child is having really weird experiences at night. Can you go into the room and see if you feel anything bad? I never get that stuff is bad. I always get that this is, granddad trying to visit. I remember going to Pennsylvania, and we were in this spa where I used to work a lot, and it was awesome. It was a great space, had a lot of heritage and a lot of history, and they kept smelling burnt matches, moving around the room. It was weird, So I went in there, and I just remember saying to someone somebody's husband passed or something like that. And as soon as it was acknowledged, it stopped happening. So it was almost like someone needed to get through there and just be acknowledged. That's really what they were looking for at that point. Hi, Catherine in Queensbury. So I hope that answers some of that, because I know that's a really good question, a really big question. Kimberly, hey Kim, how do you combine Reiki with mediumship? And then praying and meditating has been helping. Also, my session with you was helpful. Adele, I don't remember our session. I'm sorry. That's awesome. And I don't remember mediumship sessions and sessions generally, because they're not coming from me, they're coming through me. So it should be like that. It should be like that. On occasion, I'll remember somebody's mom came through, but even today, there was a group of people that I did, and I recognized one of the people, I just couldn't remember where. And, they had been to me for a reading before. So maybe it's a good thing, because then I don't remember. So Kim, how do you combine Reiki, which is energy work for those of you that aren't sure? It's a relaxation technique, a Japanese relaxation technique, with mediumship. So if you go, we go to Arthur Findlay College, where we met, and you go and you learn spiritualist-based mediumship, they will tell you that you never read during healing. It's healing only, and then it's mediumship. So I disagree. Now, I don't have people in, so I do these blended sessions now, again, when I first started reading for people, I would be reading them, my hands would get hot, and I would start seeing heat waves around their shoulders or their head. And my hand would literally pulsate like a heartbeat. And I'd say, look, can I just put my hands on your shoulders and head? And that was a weird question. And they were like, yeah. So I would do that, and they would they would have an emotional release, they would cry, they would feel really relaxed. And this is in my home in Riverville. They would be sitting in a chair, or put my hands on their head, and they would get a visit from someone, or they would smell their mother, or they would feel their dad. It was really, really incredible. So I started going, wow, there's something to this. Because I'm telling you, before this, I thought anything that had to do with energy, work, or healing was total bullshit. I just did. And when I saw people having experiences, what I had to learn was it's not a curing of everything. Although it can happen and does happen, it's not the answer to everything for everyone. A lot of this stuff is emotional, for me anyway. So I'd be doing a reading, and then I would put my hands on their shoulders, and they would walk out feeling like I haven't felt this calm and that kind of thing. And I felt that there was just this real thing that came over me when I would do that kind of work. So I started doing this spiritual based healing, which is just energy work. I had a massage table, and I would have people fully clothed without their shoes on, and they would get induced into a meditative state. It was really, really incredible for me. What I started recognizing was that as I was working on people, I would get impressions in a much different way. So I didn't get this mental uptick where I got a dad here and he was a police officer and he was 43 when he passed and he had a heart attack. I didn't get that kind of stuff as quickly. It was like I felt the presence of a man with the name of Dave, and I know that he was here just for you and you knew him as a friend. Like, it was just a different impression. Now, if I'm doing a healing, and I'm telling you at this point, early on, I was not open to trying to get information while I had my hands on people. I was just focused on getting out of the way, because I feel like all healing, people tell me, like, I'm a Reiki master. I don't float. I don't have some super frequency. I know a lot of Reiki masters. I know a lot of people that do IET. I know a lot of people that I just heard the new one, like Metatronic healing. There's all different types of healing. To me, healing is of the heart. If you really have a need and an intention to help other people, you'll be a great healer. The reason I learned Reiki, and I'm going to get to the question with the mediumship. The reason I learned Reiki was because it gave me a language and a vehicle to deliver it to people so they understood what it was. When you mention Reiki to people, they will say, yeah, I've heard of that. I've heard of that. Isn't that like acupuncture? Or, something like that. So when I said spiritual healing or natural healing, they'd be like, what do you mean? Like, you touch me and I fall down? I was like, no. That's not what I'm going for. So the Reiki to me gave me a language, and showing other people Reiki and teaching it has been one of the biggest blessings in my life, because I see these people go through all these changes. And it's really, Reiki for me refined and redefined the way that I intuitively process what I'm processing. So when I'm working on someone and I do mediumship, I do these blended sessions. If somebody's coming to me just for Reiki, within 3 to 5 minutes, I get them on the table and I do the energy work, and then afterwards I'll sit with them for a couple minutes and process. When somebody comes to me for a blended session, the intention is that when they come in, I spend 20 to 30 minutes reading for them, and then I give them a healing, because I started finding that when I just did Reiki sessions or healing sessions, people would come in and I would get information for them mediumistically anyway. What was I going to do? Not tell them? Because that's when my training came in, where it was like, there's mediumship, there's psychic, there's healing. You do one or the other. And if you're going to mix the mediumship and the psychic, that's okay, but they're two different things. And I started categorizing and compartmentalizing everything. And it just made it more complicated. So, Kim, I would say if it's coming naturally, let it come naturally. And I changed at one point, you could ask Allison, I changed my sessions a number of times, because sometimes people will come in for a mediumship reading and I'm like, you really need a healing. Or they'll come in for a healing and I spend 40 minutes, giving them a reading. So they don't always know their needs. So that's why I did a blended session, because it kind of gives, I leave it open for everything. I get a little bit of psychic, a little bit of mediumship. I get a little bit of like emotional feeling on where they're at and what's going on. What is the need? So I would just be open for it. I hope that helps, but I don't force it. So even if somebody comes in for a blended session and they want mediumship, because the only in-person sessions I do are with the table, with healing. If they want mediumship and it's not coming naturally at first, then I will put them on the table, see if something comes anyway. But I never guarantee anybody mediumship unless it's by video or phone, because I've had people get angry and people get really mad, and I'm just being honest with them. What do you want me to do? Take your money and bullshit you? I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that'll do that for you. I know that. So for me, the Reiki and the intuition and the mediumship, they all come from the same place. And sometimes I feel like the Reiki or the healing energy is actually the purest form of mediumship, because it's uninterpreted energy, it's uninterpreted love. So for me, I just think that I've seen too many people have such incredible experiences. I would never try to say, well, I have to do it this way because my tutor told me it needs to be like this. It just doesn't work like that for me. I have more people go through blended sessions and those kinds of sessions than anything else. I've seen more change with healing than I have with readings. Readings are a really good door opener for people, and they're needed, and I love doing them. But I also feel like, as mediums, we have to kind of be able to touch the need. I can't just tell them, this is all that I do. I tried that. I tried doing that, you know. So, you know, I would just be open, and if it's working for you like that, then go for it. I don't think that enough mediums spend enough time doing energy work for people, because I feel like it comes very naturally. You know, we don't need to be, and it's funny, people, like I had a woman today, someone shared something. I'm teaching Reiki up here, or down here in Mahwah, New Jersey. I'm starting to teach a lot more of it, or starting to plan it. And someone shared a post, and she was like, well, I'm a double Reiki master. Okay. You know, like, okay. I don't know. I don't know what that means. You know, to me, it's not about the certifications. Yes, I needed language and a vehicle to deliver it, and I need other people to share it with and be able to discuss it so I can process it. Same thing with mediumship and intuition, you know. Like when I didn't do a lot of this work, I would come home every day from a session and I had to call people and tell them about it. Now that I do this all day or all the time, I don't really want to tell everybody what I got. Oh my God, I got somebody's dad and I knew the name, or this and that, because it was so amazing to me, you know. So I would say go with it, and if it works for you and it's natural, don't let anybody tell you otherwise. You know, and the mediums from back in the day, like 50 and 100 years ago, they didn't have schools to go to. They literally meditated and sat in the power with other people in circle. They called it circles. So families would sit around the fire and close their eyes and just sit in that spiritual place. And they would have these experiences. That's where real mediumship is born. That's where progressive mediumship comes from. It comes from sitting in that power, the personal power, and also the spiritual power, you know. And I think that too many of us want these shortcuts. It's like, I'm going to go to school, get a certification from so-and-so famous person, and I'm level 2. I moved into an office and a woman sent me a note and said, well, where's your qualifications? For what? For what? You know, I've been to plenty of weeks. I've spent months in England studying mediumship. The best way to study mediumship is to practice it and to pray and to meditate. So if it's coming naturally, Kim, I know I'm going on and on. I'm going to move on, but I hope that helps, because I love doing that too. So I'm glad you asked that. Hey, Lori, Rome, New York, huh? Welcome. Okay. Carolyn Mace, yeah. Yeah, I saw her in person too. She's funny. Corinth, hello. Hey, Brigitte. Thanks for the great Reiki session and reading last month. You're welcome, Catherine. Did I lose my gifts, or are they still available? I don't believe that. I always call them abilities. I think the gift is being able to share this with other people. That's really what the gift is, in my opinion. So this is for Roxy Baumgartner. Roxy, I would say that they're always available. If they're not as present for you right now, my thing would be that you have to look at your life and go, okay, what's out of balance? Because I have had times that I get a lot of stuff going on in my life where I just don't feel like I want to do readings for a couple of weeks. And I was booked like 4 or 5 months in advance over the summer, and I had like 3 or 4 weeks of sessions in October, and I had all this stuff going on. And I kind of knew I was going to move, but I wasn't sure, and I had all these leases. I didn't want to break leases, and I had a really good group of people that I was working with there. I love Saratoga. And I just couldn't read for people. I had to cancel and give back quite a bit of money and tell people I'm sorry, but you know, if you want to rebook. And some people didn't. I'm okay with that, but you have to take care of yourself. So maybe it's just something you have to look at in you, because I don't feel with you that anything's missing. I feel like you have everything you need. I think one of the things is confidence for you. I just feel like, you know, don't lose faith and the belief, you know, because remember, Roxy, this is a process for us too. My life is totally different. Ask anyone in my family, you know, or ask people that used to know me and know me now. If you really know me now, my life is completely different. You know, it doesn't mean I walk around like a saint, but I press pause a lot more. I pray a lot more. I pray for other people a lot more, especially the people that I don't want to pray for, you know, and I try to keep my life in balance, and I try to focus on what's right instead of what I think is going to get me more. You know, I hope that helps. I know that's a short answer, but I don't feel like you lost anything. I feel like you think you did. So, you know, there must be something going on in your life that's throwing you off. So if you want to private message me later, we can do that. Lainey, I'm glad. Thank you. So do your loved ones gone come to you? To my loved ones? Justine, that's a good question. So Yes, but just like they do for you. So I would say, howdy, Oklahoma, in the house. Hey, Pam from Tulsa. Do your loved ones come to you? So I would say yes. So every once in a while, I'll be meditating and I'll know the presence of my mother is there. But I don't get a connection like I do for mediumship for other people. So I won't get like, hey, Mom, how's it going? What should I do with this? And I'll, I have to really sit in that emotional space to get the emotions out of the way. It's almost like, so the way it happens for me is when I'm least expecting it and I let go of trying to get an answer, all of a sudden it'll come. It just happens like that. And it's weird. Like my father's father passed away when I was like 1 year old. I was born in 1975. He died in 1976. He's the first person that comes through every time I'm around a medium. Every single time. Your granddad, Jimmy's here, he smoked and he had a lung problem and he died in his 50s or whatever. And, and usually they'll think he's my dad because, there's probably an energy, the three of us are really similar. So it's really funny to me because, and so when I do a reading for people and they'll be like, well, I never knew that. I only knew my dad until I was 5, so he can't come. Of course they can. So for me, it's really, they don't come through the way that I want them to. I usually go to other mediums and say, hey, can you tune in and see if anything comes through? And I don't tell them what I'm trying to get. But it's just not that easy for me. And to be honest with you, I don't really need it that often. I don't look for it that often. On occasion, I look for confirmation. I don't look for elaborate answers for things because usually we know. Like half the time when I tell someone something, they already knew. They just needed permission or they needed someone else to say it to them so that it becomes real. So I hope that helps. And I strive to stay in touch with spiritual beings, but I try not to be delusional either because my mind can kick in and give me answers that aren't there. So I have to be really careful with that. That was something my family and I took away from seeing you talk in person. Take your shit with you. This is a huge eye-opener. Honestly, so helpful. Thank you, Melanie. Howdy, hey. Okay. Nice to see you live. Thank you. What do I say to skeptics? Hey, Dorian, my husband is one. Yeah, I get a lot of those. It's funny because I'm a regular guy. I get, I have some of the best readings for skeptics. There was a guy that came to a session I did. It was like a 20-person group maybe up in Saratoga. And this guy came with his wife, and you could just tell he was just sitting there like this. And it was one of the better readings that I remember. I remember saying, now we're in New York, so Saratoga is right in between Boston and New York evenly. So you'll get Boston fans and you'll get New York fans, mostly New York. So he was sitting there, and I'm like, you understand you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan? He's like, oh my God. And he had like a tattoo of it. And his father was teasing him about it. His father had passed. So I would say to skeptics, like you will never change a skeptic's mind ever. And the more you try, the more they embed their foot because it becomes an ego thing. They just want to be right. They don't really give a shit what you're saying. I'm totally okay with that. Totally okay with that. When they want to come around, they will. If they don't want to come around, so I don't try to convince them. And if I feel like someone's testing me, and I've had that before, I actually ask them to leave. I'm just like, listen, I don't care if you don't believe it. You think I'm crazy or you think I'm full of it, that's fine. I made a ridiculous amount of money in a totally different business before I knew that I could do this work. I think if somebody sees somebody really good, they know that there's something to it or not. If somebody thinks that I'm Googling and I'm spending all this time doing this stuff, I don't know what to say to that. It's kind of sad, but at the same time, there was a point in my life at one point that you couldn't tell me that this was real. I would have to experience it. So that's really all I can say about it. I don't know what else to say. I mean, I don't really sit down and try to have a talk with them. I just talk about it and I walk my walk, and maybe that'll attract them to look at it a little bit of the same. But when you seek approval of other people and you seek that acknowledgement that there's something to it, you're setting yourself up for failure. So Dorian, I would hope you would just kind of just let it go and be okay with it. It doesn't really mean that they don't believe. It just means that they haven't had it proved to them yet. That's what I would say. And there's a big difference between a cynic and a skeptic. If I get someone who's real cynical, I don't waste my time. If somebody's skeptical and they have really good questions and they're asking, I'm really good with that. I'll give them a conversation and I'll sit down. So I hope that helps. Hey everybody, hey Johnny, Totowa, Miss Boss, Patty, watching from Westwood. Yep, that's close. I'm glad, Kim. I know I'm a little behind on these posts, so I'm going to scroll down a little bit. Yeah, Erin does intuitive readings also with work. Erin Sakopoulos with energy work. And hey, Care. So Sue, the blended session is so natural, leading up to spirit is best and most beautiful healing experience, and always ends up meeting my needs. Good. So perfect. Thank you. Feeling blessed to have met you. Thank you. Saw you in Mala. Hey, Loretta. Oklahoma. I went out to Oklahoma and did this really cool group and Spirit Fair with Shelly Wilson. It was a lot of fun. Hey, Jill. So are you a medium or do you just give guidance? Okay, so this is for Marie Moore. Can you read one of us out of the blue? No, not tonight. So if you want free readings, you can go to a lot of people online. So am I a medium or do I just give guidance? I do both. I definitely do both. It depends on the need. Hey, Loretta, loved your meditation after your readings. Wanted to come to one of your meditations. Only one I saw was in Malta, New York, but that's 2.5 hours away. Any near Mawa? Yeah, actually, I'm working on it. I was working on it with Flow Yoga, and I'm going to do some online meditations. So you'll be able to get the audio or the video, and you can plug in live. And I'm going to walk people into a meditation. So you could do it from the privacy of your own home with a headset on, or you can sit in a space that you can hear my voice through this program we use called Zoom. So you can literally. And I love doing live guided meditations because I feel when I'm doing meditations that the words are coming to me in a way that it's like channeled. Like I don't feel like my meditations are for me. There's a certain base premise that I use, but I do feel like it's really a cool thing. So Loretta, keep an eye out. If you guys want, you can join my mailing list. I only send out maybe like one a month. I'm really good about it. It's info@DrewCali. Just drewcali.com, info@drewcali.com. If you email us and just say, hey, I want to be part of that, we'll email you and keep you up to date on those. And they're really inexpensive and they're really, really cool. And you can get visits and we do sharing afterwards, feedback back and forth. I think it's a lot of fun. So for me, the meditations are a really big part of doing this work. I didn't think they would be. For me, I felt like, I don't know. I feel almost sometimes more passionate about doing the meditations at the end because it brings people into a space before they leave. And to me, that's really, really important because, like if you do messages, like I've seen John Edward a couple times and I love him. But at the end, it's like, okay, thank you. And I've done those kinds of like groups before and it feels like it goes from this to this. And I can only hold that power for so long before I fall off the cliff and then it gets harder for me to process what I'm getting. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like marathon. You just ran and all of a sudden you're like, I just can't process what I'm getting. I can't interpret it right. The meditations seem to bring the energy to a balancing point before it kind of, before you walk away from it. And I feel like it's really healthy energetically and emotionally. So Loretta, I appreciate that. I love doing those meditations. I get a lot of really good feedback from them. But please don't dismiss doing them online. Look, it took me the last couple of years just to do a live video, and I'm loving it. So, Marianne Baker, explain this beautifully. Yes, I agree. Some people don't want to. Do not offer any information will come from lots of client receptive prayer meditations. I wonder if they knew it would help them grow or with blocked chakras to ease their ailments. I'm sorry, it's a really long. I'm just trying to get the question. It's difficult when spirit comes through. So for those of you that know, when we say the word spirit, it's like a conglomerate. It's the plural. It could be one spirit, it could be numerous spirits, but spirit basically represents that spirit world. What comes through and you want to share with the client, and that's not what they're looking for. I get that. I wonder if they knew it would help them grow or help with blocked chakras. I try to stay away from telling people that they have blocked chakras because I had people tell me that in the beginning and it just confused me. Well, how do I unblock it? So I don't try to be the resource for what I think they should know. I allow them to make the decision, do they want to hear it or not? Again, I don't tell spirits to go away. I give them what I'm getting, and if they don't want the information, I have to give them what I'm getting or stop the session. That's the way that I work. Now, if I'm giving them guidance and it's irresponsible, or they really don't want it, they don't want mediumship because it's against their beliefs, then I stay away from it. But if they come in for either or, I'll ask them before you get in, I'll say, what do you want to focus on? Do you want me to focus on the mediumship first, or do you want to tune into a situation that's going on? So I hope that helps. Hey, Sue, I need some type of meditation activity to help with healing and dealing with pain. This is for Susie McInerney. Advice for type of meditation. I would do any kind of meditation you could. And what I always say to people is the best way to learn how to meditate is to meditate. You know, just sit in that space, use music, try guided meditations, try healing guided meditations. I also do a session called, I don't want to sound like a commercial on this, that's not the purpose for this, but there's a meditative healing session that I do. So, you know, there's things out there like that where I can walk you into something, but there's not really a type of meditation I could refer you to because everybody's different. And that's why when I work with someone one-on-one, it's like I feel like I'm almost instructed to give them a certain type of meditation because that's what the need is calling for. And I feel really comfortable with that. So I hope that helps, Susie. What I would say is maybe go for some energy work. I don't know where you're located, but there's a lot of good Reiki practitioners out there. There's a lot of good healers in a lot of different modalities. Find someone that you trust, give it a try and see what happens. You know, see what happens. And I think, you know, when you're dealing with physical pain, sometimes it takes multiple sessions, you know. And I think that I've had people come in and then they have no back pain after. But I've had people come in for, you know, multiple times. And there's so much that we don't know that I feel like, but pre and post surgery and people that are going through chemo and things like that, energy work is really, really beneficial. So that's what I would say. And any type of meditation. When my mom was sick with cancer, she used to do these meditations where she would go back into her past and actually rewire memories so that she wasn't carrying things in her cellular memory. There's so many cool things out there. And if you have the time and you're like kind of recovering from surgery, which is knee replacement, it'll take you out for a bit, you know, maybe spend some time looking at it. Maybe that's what you're supposed to do. Maybe it's a good opportunity and take that. And I would use that, okay? Hey, Donna. So Justine, thanks. I told you when I get a conference. I was curious if you get yours on your own. Yeah, I would like that. If I get mine on my own. Confirmations? Yes, I do. I do get confirmations on my own. My brother and I my mom passed, and there's a big butterfly thing that we all kind of, that happened with her ashes. There was a butterfly that landed by the Hudson River and stayed there for like over a minute. My sister got a tattoo of it. We all kind of know this. And my brother and I were talking at Sanzari restaurant in like New Milford, I think it is. And we were just talking about my mom, and we get out to the car and I turn on my truck, and literally the song was like the Butterfly Woes or something. And we were like, no way, man, nobody's going to believe that. So when those synchronicities come and you try to explain them, like me explaining this, doesn't sound as good. But when it happens to you, you know that happens. So let me also say that synchronicities happen all the time. It's just that we're not always paying attention and understanding. So I hope that helps. Hey, Audi, thank you. Let's see, Mary Beth. I visited you last spring. I was her age to you completely blew me away. So, Mary Beth, I would say thank you for coming to me for the reading. I don't remember the session, which is, I always say it's a good thing. What I would say is that, so it's weird with kids, like sometimes somebody passed away 20 years ago and I'll say I have a young man here. People will be like, no, you know, my kid died when they were 6. But I'll see them as a grown-up version of themselves. So do they grow up in the spirit world? I've had mediums that say yes. Do I know for sure? No. I don't know that our age over there and over here is the same, but I have seen older people that will show me a younger version of themselves also, only because that person will recognize them from a picture or something like that. So do they reflect their age to me? I sometimes will get a very specific age, and sometimes I'll get a very general age. Like this person was an older gentleman who passed away from organ failure, or like your grandfather's generation. Sometimes I just get a generational. So if I get a husband, sometimes I can't tell it's somebody's husband. I might think it's their brother. Does that make sense? So I feel like, or I'll get somebody's dad, but it's their dad-in-law. I can't always feel the exact ages, no. For me, it's not that relevant unless it's getting me landed. That's really where, and when people stop and go, was he bald? Did he have blue eyes or brown? Like testing me, my mind has to kick in and try to answer. So when you bring Drew's conscious mind back, all of a sudden I'm no longer linked in with that spiritual place. So thank you for asking. And I'm glad, you have such a positive outcome on that. Harrison, Arkansas. Hey, Monica. Deb. Hey, Deb. Adele. Blended session was amazing and life-changing. Thank you. Oh, from Rivervale. Hey. Thanks, Danielle. Danielle. You got your Reiki Masters from Shelley Wilson. She's awesome. We did a Blog Talk radio show together. That was a lot of fun. Hey, Carrie. Yeah, Reiki classes are coming. I'm doing a Reiki Masters and Advanced course together out of the Pearl River Hilton in New York in April, which is it's in Rockland County, right on the Bergen County border. But I'm looking for places to do the Reiki 1 and 2 and the continued education. For me, when I teach Reiki, I think it's really important that, I don't know, you need a space to go to and work with. For me, it's practical application. You can learn Reiki symbols all day and think that, oh, I know these symbols, it's great. But if you're not utilizing them, you know how many people I've had do Reiki that never use it? So for me, I do these things, they're called Reiki gatherings. I do intuitive and mediumistic gatherings too. So you can come and practice. So you'll give a session, a full 40 minutes to an hour, and you'll receive a session and maybe get some feedback from that person. And you don't have to worry about it because you're doing it in a practice environment. We do meditations, things like that. So for me, it's really important to have that kind of home base and that camaraderie with other people, because then you can really, you could broadcast what you're getting at that time. I can't tell you how many times doing this work, I had questions and I couldn't get them answered for months, and then I would forget what the hell I was asking. So yes, definitely Reiki is definitely coming. I'm trying to do as much as I can. Awesome. Thank you, Loretta. Reiki 1 and 2 is something I'm able to continue. Yes, Ellen, you can do. So it doesn't matter. Like I have people ask about lineage and stuff. If you did Reiki 1 and 2 and you're qualified, you can always do advanced and Reiki Master and Teacher with me or with anybody. You can do it with anybody. So it doesn't matter where you started. It really doesn't. And we can always talk about doing refreshers and things like that. It's not a big deal. So I hope that helps, Ellen. Okay, Long Island. Love the suggestions. Thank you. Something you said, maybe we'll be back this summer. Hey, Janine, thank you. Yeah, Lainey, she was great. I miss my mom. And I'd say this too. I, had 3 really incredibly powerful losses in a very short period of time in my family, and that affected everybody in my family. And from those losses, one of them being my mom, who to me was like a saint, and to all of her kids and my dad, she was just, she was an amazing woman. So, from that pain and that difficulty came this whole change and this whole spiritual awakening process. I wouldn't have been open to it or even looking in that direction. I cleaned up my life because I didn't want to be miserable anymore with that pain. So I know a lot of you at some point have had some of this happen where the difficulties happen and then you have these awakenings. I believe that we have contracts when we come into this world with other spirits and souls, other people, that when we come into this world, we agree to certain things beforehand. So there are no mistakes. I know that it sucks. We don't want people to go, but it also, like, my family dynamics have changed so much since my mom passed, but everybody had to grow in their own way, or even regress. Some people regress, and that's the way it is, but those are our challenges. Hey, Marianne. Hey, Barb, Saratoga. So I'm just going to try to scroll down and see if there's any more questions here. Okay, so Adele, there are some classes coming up in Saratoga. I'm going to be up in April, June, and then August. So listen, I'm going to wrap it up, everybody. I really appreciate you guys being on here. It's been over an hour, and I just want to say, look, you can find me. My website's drewcali.com. I'm doing as much as I can to stay in touch with you guys as much as possible. And online, I love this new program, Zoom. It's like you can have conversations like this, video conference with me sitting in my dining room. Love it. I got my dog next to me. You could be comfortable too. But I'm definitely looking to do classes. If you email me at info@drewcali.com, we'll get you on a mailing list. It's very simple. I don't do a lot. I do send out free meditations, guided meditations. And I do also have a CD called The Pearl Within. But most importantly, I just hope that I answered some of your questions to the best of my ability. And I did as honestly as I could. So if I couldn't answer exactly what you wanted to hear, hopefully maybe it touched the need. And that's really all I can hope for. So again, I'm really honored. It's always an honor and a privilege for me to share this kind of space with you guys. So thank you so much for joining me and for showing up. And I'll definitely be doing some more. And if you guys have topics you want to hear about, please email me. I have a lot of ideas. I just don't want to, I don't want to make it about what I want to talk about. I really want to touch what I think people need to hear or they also want to hear. So thank you so much. And I love the compliments. I needed that. And I'll definitely be in touch. All right. Thank you. God bless.